This episode is brought to you by the Western Outdoor News Strike King Big Bass Challenge. Held on May 22nd, 2021 out of Russo's Marina on the California Delta, it's a guaranteed $7,500 total cash payout based on a 100 angler field. As an added bonus, the first 100 anglers registered gets a free Lose fishing rod. We have about 50 left and counting, so head over to wonews.com under the Tournaments tab to sign up today.
We just had an epic trip with huge, like 50-pound halibut and probably like a 65-pound sea bass mixed with those, 15 to 20 grade school sea bass that came through and just crushed everything in sight.
Welcome back to the Western Outdoor News Podcast. This week we're going to have an on-site interview with Captain Brian Norris about the paper's cover shot aboard Fin Fetish. Also, we will dive in depth with Tournament Director Billy Egan and Western Outdoor News Editorial Staff Director Blake Warren about their recent trip at Lake Berryessa. They spent 4 nights on a luxury houseboat from Suntex Marine.
It was a 70-foot boat, and it felt like it was a 90-foot boat. Really spacious from front to back. Yeah, if you want to go out and make a fishing trip with your buddies this summer, that's the way to do it.
We then go in depth with Western Outdoor News sales rep Dylan with a full report on the Fin Fetish trip of a lifetime.
There were people in the process of pulling their anchors and moving while we hooked and fought this fish.
That is definitely a story making waves in Western Outdoor News this week. I cannot wait for everybody to hear about it on the show today. But first, Daniel and I get a full Lake Berryessa rundown from Western Outdoor News Tournament Director Billy Egan and Western Outdoor News Editor Blake Warren, who recently spent some time on a gorgeous houseboat on Lake Berryessa with Suntex Marinas. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it is because early bird entries to Striper Derby this year were entered to win a 3-day houseboat experience courtesy of Suntex Marinas. While it is too late to enter for the giveaway, it is not too late to come out to Striper Derby this weekend, May 14th through the 16th in Lake Havasu. That's why it pays to listen to the Western Outdoor News podcast as soon as it comes out. So without any further delay, here is Billy, Blake, and Daniel discussing houseboating and fishing on Lake Berryessa.
We spent 4 days up there. We got a chance to go up and check out Suntex's houseboats. They've got a nice fleet up there at Berryessa and also Don Pedro, but it was sweet to get up there, spend 4 days so that we could explain to our Striper Derby anglers what exactly they were vying to win.
Nothing better than not having to launch your boat, but the first time, tie your boat up to the back of the houseboat, then you have a home base to fish at we had 4 nights and 4 days, so we were out there getting the most of it.
Yeah. How was it up there? What's kind of give us a lay of the land? It's at I know. Have you guys fished it before?
For myself, I'd never been there before. I don't think Blake had been there either, but it reminded me a lot of Central Coast lakes, like Lake Nacimiento with the rolling hills and the oak trees up there. Obviously, it's set between Winters and Napa up in the foothills up there, but it's a gorgeous lake. It's obviously a little bit low right now, which all of our lakes are low, but the fishing was just phenomenal. To have an opportunity to catch 3 species of bass in one day, let alone multiple times, a spot, a smallmouth and a largemouth. It was pretty cool, never being there and going out with one of the guys that helped us out by bringing his bass boat up there. Jeremy Mann fished it on Tuesday before Blake arrived to kind of get the lay of the land, and his first cast was a 10-pounder on a jerkbait. So we thought
that's a good one.
The sky was the limit, but
yeah.
We didn't tie into any really big ones, but numbers were big, huh, Blake?
They were crazy, and especially as a Southern California guy where you don't usually get the chance to tackle big spots and smallies all too often. It was nice to, every cast you didn't know what you're going to get. Could be a big smallie, could be a big spot, or a big largemouth.
And we didn't throw the plastics at all, not once.
I promised myself that I wasn't touching a Senko or a worm the entire time, and I didn't. Still caught a lot of fish.
So go ahead and kind of give me a rundown on how the whole houseboat process works. I've yet to do it myself. Was it easy just getting on the boat? What was the process?
Surprisingly easy. You just roll up and you meet with the staff. They give you a 20, 30-minute orientation about how everything works. They get you out to the no-wake zone, and then they turn the keys over to you and hop back on their pontoon. You go find a cove, set up shop for however long you're staying out there.
Hand you the reins.
Yeah, luckily I had been able to get on the water that Tuesday before we met them that Tuesday night. So I had already found a nice secluded cove that was protected from the wind. So I already knew where we were going.
Oh, perfect.
And I pretty much took over the helm of the houseboat, docked it, put the stakes in, roped it up, tied the bass boats to it, turned the barbecue on, and the party started.
Yeah, I saw that meat shot in the paper there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. Jeremy is one of the guys that fishes the Wambass tournaments, and I had put a post up that I was looking for somebody to help me out with a boat while we were there for me and my son, and he jumped all over it. He's a fireman up there in Northern California and brought down his boat and let Liam and I use it for 2 days, and then ended up getting a couple days off and said, hey, do you mind if I bring some food and hang out with you guys? And we said, go for it. And being a fireman, he fed us like a house full of firemen. I mean, two tri-tip steaks and salad and pasta and
6 chickens and
breakfast
4 pounds of bacon.
Hot dog appetizers.
It was insane. So it was awesome to have him be a part of it because he had a lot of local knowledge and was able to give us good tips on where to kind of head for the type of bites we were looking for.
Awesome. And then I think Rusty was up there with you guys as well, and he had a few guide trips after you.
Yeah, that's how it worked out with him. He had 3 or 4 guide trips set for Berryessa and Clear Lake, and a couple other lakes up there too, I believe. So he was up there at the right place, right time. That's how we had 2 bass boats, 5 guys, and just fishing nonstop, sun up to sundown.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you guys are thinking about taking a family vacation or a vacation with a few of your buddies, whether it's for fishing or just sightseeing, there's nothing like waking up in the middle of the lake with nobody else around you, looking at the stars as the sun rises and watching the fish jump in the cove that you happen to be hanging out at.
That's
it's
awesome.
One step to your boat.
Let's talk about those amenities on the boat. There were staterooms. You guys had some comforts, creature comforts.
It was a 70-foot boat, and it felt like it was a 90-foot boat. Really spacious from front to back. 4 staterooms, 2 pull-out sofas, air conditioning, top deck with a water slide, a wet bar, a hot tub. It was definitely not tent camping.
Yeah, we saw that picture of Liam enjoying the slide.
Yeah, he's just sliding into summer like that. It was pretty awesome.
Perfect.
Because, you'd go out, you'd fish the morning bite because it's not so hot, and then come in around lunchtime. You take a break between 12 and 3 o'clock and have lunch and just chill out before, the afternoon, evening bite. So
yeah.
It's a perfect scenario. I mean, you don't have to go relaunch your boat and trailer your boat and park your boat and trailer. It was just seamless.
Yeah. Wake up, hop on, and go.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a floating apartment. I mean, you've got everything you need right at your hands. You got an oven, you got a microwave, you got a stove, you got air conditioning, you got TVs. If you bring your movies and things like that, or you've got an account that you can log into, because there is access up there in certain parts of the lakes. We did find internet service, but there's also other parts that are blacked out. But
which is kind of nice. Fishing wise, it was a reaction bite you guys were on. Any tips morning throughout the day? What kind of went on?
It was kind of biting
Hodgepodge.
steadily the whole way. The whole time we were out there, like Billy said, we didn't really fish the meat of the day from 12 to 3 or 12 to 4, but we were out there pretty much every other second of the day where the sun was up, kind of up.
Any standout baits from the trip?
Yeah, jerk baits seem to work real well. The ball head jig with a small little paddle tail swim bait was easy to use because most of the fish were in the 10-foot range to the bank. I threw some swim baits the second and third day, some bigger baits, trying to target some larger fish. Without any takers, I did have a couple nice follows from some larger spots, but
that's a kokanee.
Yeah, they do have kokanee up there. So a lot of guys throw the bait smith up there, and one of our Wambass guys caught a 13 and 11, and I think it was January at Berryessa on 10-inch bait smith. So they're there, and all 3 species healthy. I mean, you've got catfish, bluegills, crappie. There's tons of fish up there.
Shad. You guys had some shad action going on.
The shad that we saw were half an inch, tiny shad.
2 eyes and a wiggle.
Green color, which helped Blake with a crankbait bite because he matched the hatch on that and caught a pretty nice one.
Nice. You guys have anything else to add?
The only thing I have to say is, do it.
Yeah.
Just if you find the time, you've got a group of people, check them out. Don Pedro, Berryessa. Both you can't beat. Don Pedro's a little bit deeper lake. It's got some good fish in it also. I fished an HBC there back in 2007, which is a heavyweight bass classic. And there's some toads in there. But again, it's beautiful. It's got the same type of scenery as Berryessa, but just not as coastal.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, if you want to go out and make a fishing trip with your buddies this summer, that's the way to do it. And tie up your boat right there. You can 6-7 guys just go up there and tear it up.
Next up on the show, let's get to this massive story aboard the Fin Fetish. I'm sure you've seen the pictures in Western Outdoor News. Gigantic white sea bass, massive halibut, making way out of Marina del Rey and heading to the Channel Islands a day ahead of schedule. Captain Brian Norris and his crew headed towards the Channel Islands. But as usual, don't just hear the story from me.
Finally, it looks like we turned the corner here weather-wise and temp-wise on the fishing grounds. That pretty much all the islands are starting to turn on right now. It's time to book a trip. Get your trips booked right away because these things are filling up fast for all the charters. And anywhere you're going from, down in the Coronados to up to Miguel, wherever, out to Nick, it is biting. And I would highly recommend getting on a trip as soon as possible. The sea bass are biting. There's yellows, big, giant halibut. We just had an epic trip with limits of sea bass, huge, like 50-pound halibut, and probably like a 65-pound sea bass mixed with those, 15 to 20 grade school sea bass that came through and just crushed everything in sight and limited everybody out in a matter of seconds. But yeah, my recommendation is to get on a trip as soon as possible and come out fishing with Fin Fetish if you can. And if not, get on with any of our buds. And boy, it sure does help to have a lot of friends in the industry to where we can all communicate with each other and befriend each other and really, be able to help each other out to get on the bite. And that's the way we can cover all the ground out there. And my thanks goes to all of our friends out there at the islands this weekend.
Yeah, that was awesome to see everyone working together, everyone having good etiquette out there. It was just awesome. So
yeah, really, really cool to see. So that's what we look forward to, and we always try to help out whenever we can. And it comes back to you. It's really super cool to see that down here. And in years past, we didn't really get to see that. So it's really kind of awesome to see how we can really work together and turn it into a really incredible fishery.
Yeah. Our day started kind of slow. We got a couple big fish first thing in the morning, and then we grinded, until about midday. Got a call.
Yeah, and then we got a call from my buddy Jay, and Jonah turned us on to the bite there. And boy, I'm telling you, without those guys, it's like, we wouldn't have been there. We wouldn't have had it. And thanks to those guys and thanks to the whole fleet out there for working together. And everyone was like really cordial and etiquette. And it really makes it fun to fish out there when everybody's cooperating with each other.
Yeah, totally. That
really
was so fun.
cool.
That was a killer trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again,
awesome.
Thanks, Brian. Fin Fetish. Check them out, Marina del Rey.
Right on. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
So clearly it was a successful trip. I know that the trip actually got pushed up a day. Tell me about the delay and how the whole trip came together.
Yeah, Dylan actually got a call from Brian that there's a wind advisory for Friday. It didn't sound like it was going to be like a buster. It wasn't going to kill our trip, but it was going to be a lot more uncomfortable. So we made the call.
Yeah, not only that, he said we likely would run if we were to stay with the initial plan of departing Thursday night, but we would have probably been limited to fishing Catalina Island, which would have had potential, but his code group had been fishing it in just the days leading up and not doing as well, so we wanted to shoot outwards.
Yeah, we ended up making a 90-mile run up to the Transverse Islands up there, and man, we're lucky we did. We had a killer trip.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me about this. I know you guys were working on your bait on the way out there. What was going on?
So bait was tough. First thing, we got to the backside of this island, and the bait had been there the day before, and it was there. The bait was there. We didn't have too much sea line pressure. It was just tough to make. We made maybe 30, 40 pieces, some weird fin bait, kind of playing in the lights. And
over 2 to 3 hours of actively trying to scoop these guys up with dip nets and crowders.
We pulled the crowder out and just could not get it to work for us on that spot. So
that was a long first night, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I didn't sleep that night.
Yeah, I don't think any of us really did, but
yeah, we were pretty excited about the trip, and by the time we got there, we put on our work boots and we were trying to make bait.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily the captain was keeping an eye on the time and whatnot, and he wanted to put us onto the fishing grounds in advance of the sport boat overnight fleet and anyone else who might be going out there so we could set up in the depth that we wanted to. So we ended up kind of moving to where we'd eventually be fishing, and it turns out that's where a ton of the squid was, and the squid that was wanting to come up too.
Yeah, that stuff, it took about an hour and a half to really float. I'd say. But, we started scooping here and there, 2, 3 pieces, 10 pieces, and then, let's get the crowder out. And that's when the real work
100
began.
pieces, 150 pieces. Yeah, it got pretty good there.
Yeah, it was intense. My back's still feeling it.
Oh, no. But it was all worth it, right? So you had obviously some gigantic catches on the trip. Tell me about the first one.
That's Dylan's fish. I'll let him kind of go into that one.
Yeah, I'll start it a little before then, too. Immediately after we finished making bait, and this was probably 30 minutes before gray light, maybe 5:30 in the morning, we started going lines in, sending down some of these squids on dropper loops. And there was a good amount of people in the area, probably 20 or 30 boats fishing along the same stretch as us. And we had a code boat kind of right near us, probably 30 yards, 40 yards off the boat, fishing in a little bit deeper of water. And they were actually the very first ones to hook up. They hooked up at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and Captain Brian was watching them the whole time, and they pulled a giant halibut of their own, which later I found out weighed 49 pounds on the scale.
Yeah, that was a big fish too. We saw pictures of that later on.
Right, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then about 30 minutes after their catch, we got the second bite among the fleet. We didn't see anybody else pulling on fish at that point.
Yeah, we were watching pretty good too. He had the binos up there just kind of keeping tabs on everyone and making sure, where's this bite going to happen? When's it going to happen? Because it is a time thing. Gray light seems to be that bite window, and tide has things to do with it. So you got an hour and a half window of biting. So we were just kind of keeping an eye on everyone.
But yeah, in this scenario, I was the lucky angler who happened to be standing right in front of the rod that went off, and unlucky in a way too that the rod that went off had very light line on it. We're talking like 25-pound test, and we had potentially some really big fish that we were going to be fighting. We knew it was a good one immediately, based on like some head shakes, some drag pulls. I personally never caught a sea bass or a big halibut of any means, so I didn't know what to expect. I'm worried the entire time I got a bat ray or something. It was sticking to the bottom real crazy. The second captain, Johnny Boctor, he helped me a lot in the fight. He was coaching me and very hands-on. I've fought my share of fish, but we were going wicked tuna line pulling onto the reel, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it was cool to watch that. It was awesome, and we were lucky to get that fish in. Those fish usually freak out when they get close to the boat, and making that gaff shot's tough because they come up vertical, right, straight up and down, and man, second gaff ready to go, and let's get this fish in the boat, because it came up and it was just like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
That's the biggest halibut I'd seen in person.
Seriously. And we understand it was the biggest one that's ever been landed on the Fin Fetish boat. And he lands a lot of halibut if you're to go through his social media page or his website. So it was a very special fish.
Yeah. Those guys, shout out to those guys for just being, who they are. They're so passionate about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that among the things mentioned by Captain Brian himself about his networking with other anglers who are on the scene. It was his knowledge and his drive and decision making that kept us in the right areas and knew exactly what area to start on based on the bite the day before and all of that.
Yeah, so is that kind of what Brian was talking about in his little recording at the beginning, about kind of the teamwork and the camaraderie? Tell me about what that means to anglers out there.
Yeah, when big spots of fish like this kind of group up, and obviously this bite's happening right now. A lot of people know about it, and a lot of people know exactly where it is. What can happen is people get stepped on, anchoring too close to each other, driving behind each other, driving too fast through the fleet. We saw a couple boats do that here and there, but for the most part, everyone up there in that zone really had like a good grasp on, what everyone else was doing. Mm-hmm. And
I've seen fishing half that good be twice as bad as far as the etiquette.
Yeah, totally. So it was awesome to watch that whole thing go down how it did.
Slow pickings overall in the morning. Granted, we got a legendary fish right off the get-go, but that was us and our code boat were the only two boats that had hung one in that region that we had seen, and there were quite a few. It was starting to thin out towards the mid-morning hours there.
Yeah, guys were thinning out. bait got sent down to the bottom on the bow and we were bit.
Right.
And it made a couple guys turn around and drop anchor again because they saw what was going on.
Yeah, our second bite. We after the first fish, we kind of put on our serious shoes and we had started fishing it, replacing baits and watching it really closely. We were worried if we did get bit by the sea bass, that it'd be a pretty subtle bite, and if on one of those rods, if it was on the bow, I mean, we'd have to have an eye on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that turned out to happen as soon as one of those bow lines was reset. Rod went off. He hadn't even walked back down the gunnels towards the stern again.
Yeah, I think the rod was in his hand when he got bit.
Yeah, perhaps. But that was the general manager of Save On Tackle, a friend of ours, Anthony Canuli, who caught that second fish. And instantly, Brian Norris was watching, and he could tell that it wasn't a halibut, that it was a sea bass, based on it kind of swimming outwards and staying higher in the column in the fight. And he even said it was like a good one, like 30 plus pound. Little did we know.
Yeah, what was going to come up?
Right. It'd be even better than that.
Yeah. So what did come up?
Well, first thing that happened, the thing shot under the anchor, and Anthony was quick to get under it and get on his knees and do what he had to do, Sometimes you got to do that.
That was experience at work. He had done that a time or two.
Yeah. So he got the line and rod under the anchor line and then walked towards the stern. And I mean, he did what, 3 laps?
Yeah, it wasn't a long extended fight. He did have it hooked on heavier string than that halibut. It was on 50 pounds, so he could pull on it pretty good.
Yeah.
But a couple circles around the boat, and he got it up, and it was almost as if it was a smaller fish based on the duration of the fight. But once it came up, I mean, man, it was a tank.
You can't miss that purple hue as it comes up. When you first see color and you know what it is, and the big bars, and Johnny stuck the thing in the head, and we were off to the stern to pull it over, and it was pretty awesome.
Took some photos while it was green, and as Daniel mentioned, there were people in the process of pulling their anchors and moving while we hooked and fought this fish.
Yeah.
And some people stopped right in their tracks and kept doing exactly what we and they were originally doing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And that fish was an interesting one. It was a short and just thick fish. It was
seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the cover of Western Outdoor News this week, so be sure to check that out in your mailbox or on your newsstand. But full coverage, we've got the gaff shot, we've got all sorts of crazy photos. It's all up on wonews.com and in the paper. So what else happened on the trip? I mean, those were just the 2 big catches. You guys also had tons of other limits. So what else happened?
Yeah, what happened after that is we stuck it out in the zone. We get 2 big fish. You're going to stick the zone out. And we knew we were on top of a bed and a nest. And, baits that were coming up had extra squid on them and come up with egg sacs and stuff like that. So we stuck in the zone for a little while longer. I think we got a couple junk bites, like maybe a whitefish or something. And we kind of we started pulling anchor. And got a call, got a call from one of the code guys, and they were biting.
That second fish, it came up at about 9 a.m. So we'd been fishing over the span of several hours for those 2 bites. Rode it out for longer, as Daniel mentioned, probably another hour and a half to 2 hours, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And we were making deliberations. Are we going to go do some rock fishing? Are we going to go specifically drift for halibut or go look for yellowtail at a spot that the captain knew of? And while we were in the process of starting to re-rig those, we got the call.
Yeah, we were re-rigging. We were rigging up to go fish something different, pulling weights off and re-rigging our gear. I forgot about that. And we got the call and get those weights back on.
Right. We motored over. It wasn't far from the initial zone, no more than a mile. It was
probably a half mile up the beach, I'd say. And then they were biting. We slid in right behind one of our buddies and man, it just went full speed.
It was cool, too, because I'm sure Captain Brian saw it on the electronics, because once we pulled up into that zone where our friend was bit, he was right next to us. He told us, get in the water now.
Yeah.
And as soon as we did, I mean, I remember personally, I got in and I got a bite. I think I missed my first bite. It's kind of a subtle thing. I don't have a lot of experience fishing sea bass. It was tough to hook.
I was fishing the bucktail, and I missed my first 2 fish. And I think just fishing that heavier bucktail and stuff made a difference. But I was getting bit before bottom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I shook off a few. I didn't land one that day.
Yeah,
I ended up shaking off 3 fish, and then my hook broke.
Not that he couldn't. There was so much action going on. We had a couple newer anglers on the boat that were coaching, helping him out.
Yeah.
It was their first time holding a rod and reel, and they landed a legal white sea bass.
Yeah, it was biting. So it was fun to catch catch them like that, and it always is fun to catch them like that. And
Yeah.
and people say, when they bite, they bite.
Yeah, it's cool to experience that finally. I'm a lifelong angler, and this was my first time ever getting into a white sea bass bite like that, where you get more than one fish on the boat.
Yeah, very cool.
So tell me more. The Fin Fetish, this is their second time landing in recent memory, landing on the cover of Western Outdoor News. Tell me about the boat and some of the crew members.
Man, that Bertram is just a beast of a boat. We charged up the line 90 miles, and the first 25 miles were a little sporty. It was afternoon wind, Marina
absolutely.
del Rey down in South Bay, and it'll blow.
The sailboats were out in full effect.
Yeah, the sailboats were out. I mean, they were doing their thing, and about halfway up to the island, I'd say it smoothed out, and we went from 16 to probably 22 knots, and we got up there in good time, and the boat handled it.
Yeah, we left probably 7 o'clock, maybe 7:30 p.m., and we were on the bait grounds 11:30 p.m. I don't even think it had rang midnight yet.
No, yeah, we were at the bait grounds earlier than I'd expected.
Made great time, and it was a very comfortable boat. As far as a fishing platform, it was cool. I liked the inside galley area and the V-berth for the sleeping area. It was very roomy.
Yeah, no, there was a lot more room than I would have thought in a 31-foot package. It was awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
Big
Microwave
wide
for
boat.
our food in the morning.
They're like 11 and a half feet wide almost. They're big
Was it?
wide
Yeah.
boat, yeah.
Wow. So sounds like a trip for the books, and also sounds like a trip for Western Outdoor News. Everybody can see the story in this week's issue of Western Outdoor News, or jump over to wonews.com. There you have it, episode 17 of the Western Outdoor News podcast. I'd like to thank you guys so much for listening to the show. We've gotten so much positive feedback, and you guys listening every week really means so much to us. We will see you this weekend at the Striper Derby. We'll see you on the show next week to recap the winners and talk about the event and whatever else comes up in the world of Western Outdoor News. And if you're listening to this in Northern California, or you're looking to make a trip to the Delta, don't forget about the May 22nd Strike King Big Bass Challenge Tournament taking place on the California Delta. Go to wonews.com to sign up for that event on May 22nd. We'll see you guys all next week.